grateful for the reading of Scripture. We're reading Matthew 28, verses 16 through 20. Then the 11 disciples left for Galilee, going to the mountain where Jesus had told them to go. When they saw him, they worshipped him, but some of them still doubted. Jesus came and told his disciples, I have been given complete authority in heaven and on earth. Therefore, go and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Teach these new disciples to obey all the commands I have given you. And be sure of this, I am with you always, even until the end of the age. The word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God.
You may be seated. Well, way back in Genesis 1, when time began, God was. When creation came to be, God was the cause of all of that. The water, the wind, both of God swept over the earth. The Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. See, God tends to creation. God called it forth. So my question is, today, is the Spirit that is the creative force of God or Word? Is it the Spirit that is the creative force of God, or is it the Word? The Word was spoken, and there was. John 1:3 tells us all things came into being through him, and without him, not one thing would be into being. It was the Word that brought forth light. And then it was the Word that pronounced it good. You see, today we wrestle over creation. It seems to be a lot of questions and concerns and a lot of debate theories out there about creation and how everything really came about. Sometimes people overlook the goodness that is the part of all that God has created. Or maybe we even forget sometimes what good really means. God saw that it was good. But the light was not yet complete. The sun had not been made yet in the story. The moon and the lesser lights of the star were still on the drawing board. But it was good. Goodness must mean something other than finished. If we think about that, we say it all the time, well, that's good. It's really good that that's done and whatever. But so many times when we think it's good, it's really not completed yet. It's good that it's in process. So it means something other than finished, at least in the text that we're looking at. It must mean something other than perfect as we define the term. Because so many times the things that we think are perfect, or certainly it wouldn't be perfect in the eyes of God. But could it possibly mean born of God when we say things are great? Goodness, things are good. Are they born of God? Maybe it means in process. Maybe it means it's growing, moving on toward perfection, heading on the way toward order out of chaos. I would like to think that we're all in process of moving further towards perfection. But order out of chaos, light out of darkness, and the light was good, and there was morning, and then there's another day. Has there ever been a time in your life when you thought maybe there's never going to be another day? You're down and out. It's just so bad. How could there possibly be another day? And if there is another day, how could it ever be any better than what it is right now? But as we all know, there always was another day. Thanks be to God. And God says, let there be a dome in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters. Waters represents chaos, something that's unknown and unknowing. In the ancient world, sending sailors to the sea was a traumatic experience. It's not like today when we have radios and GPS equipment and all those wonderful things, and even ships still get lost sometimes at sea. But think about back in Jesus' day when they come on some wooden boat, and they hoped that the wind was going to take them the direction they needed. And they hoped if they got into a storm that they were going to survive the storm, and the boat was going to hold together so they can make it to port and do what they needed to do, pick up or drop off, whatever it was, and then get back home. So many times, they didn't know that happened. And even in more current times, you think back to the people, the pilgrims, and they came over here. Did they even think they were going to really survive that trip? I mean, it was a dangerous time. Shipping is a lot different today, but back then when you sent somebody off on a ship, you weren't sure that you were ever going to see them again. It was a really tough time. But they still went. They went out, they did those things. And then after all the waters were separated and God is in control of creation, God was staking a claim as the Lord of chaos and order. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. God is in control. And I wonder, do we think that every day when we're struggling and feel like we're drowning sometimes? God says, let the earth put forth vegetation. Vegetation is wonderful because if we know about it, it cleans the air and gives us oxygen to breathe, right? It's not just to look pretty. There's a purpose for that. Paul has a purpose for all the plants that he puts in the ground, the seeds that make the plants. And if they don't do what they're supposed to do, and all the other farmers had that same problem, we wouldn't be eating like we do today. You see, God invites partnership. Now bear with me, because God is saying to get on board in the midst of all this. God is perfectly capable of taking care of things on his own, of making something out of nothing. But God chooses to invite us to participate in the work. Let the earth bring forth. It was good, and there was morning, and it goes on. You see, God is the only power of all creation. Everything that we know today was put in place by God. And Jesus said, it was good. God says it was good when it happened. And the story of creation and of God and Jesus goes on for 66 books throughout history until today, where we find ourselves in the midst of chaos, attempting to throw off order. I mean, it doesn't take long, right, to pick up a newspaper, turn the radio on, turn the television on, and you see the chaos that is going on in the world. And if we get so focused on that, we lose what God's plan is all about. You see, it goes on and on until we find ourselves forgetting that there is a purpose to our existence as individuals and as a church and as a group of people, as a nation. Things go on, the story, the mornings come every day. And there's a blessing there. It was evening and it was morning. A new day, another day was given during creation. When the struggles of life had you convinced that the sun is never going to shine again, you know what happens? All you got to do is get up early the next morning, ever so slowly, you'll see that sun coming up over the hill. The horizon blocks it for a while, but pretty soon it comes up. And you begin to see that there is a new day. God set it all in motion. God invites us to be a part of all of that. We have to be stewards of God's creation. Good stewards. Make sure that it lasts as long as it possibly can. Now, I sometimes think, can we really destroy it? Well, we think we can. There's been lots of theories about that. I'm not going to debate all that today, but I wonder, as big as it is and the way God created it, is there anything we can do to really destroy it? To make it disappear? We can sure make a mess out of it. But I don't know if we can, how big of an atomic bomb would it take to completely wipe out the earth? I don't know. I don't want to find out. But I think God's creation is so big that we make a mess in our spot, but generally God has a way of fixing things. If you've seen a chemical spill somewhere and you go back years later, it's all grown up again. Usually it just kind of dissipates and it kind of takes care of itself. We're just called to participate. We're privileged with a responsibility and a promise to take care of what we are given. We are made in the image of God. God created every one of us. We know that all we are and all that we will be belongs to God. Our main thought should be one of gratitude. You see, we know all that we are and all that we have truly belongs to the one who said, "Let there be light." And we are called to join in. We are called to go. And it's time to go. Have you ever thought of that? It's time to go. I'm sure you've been told that more than once in your lifetime, right? Especially if you're a kid and you're dragging your feet, getting ready, and mom and dad grab you and say, "Hey, it's time to go." And the old bus is sitting out front, and you don't want to go out and get on it, but it's time to go. God's telling us it's time to go. And I'm sure that you have said that to yourself, to your children, to your family, to other people. It's time to go. We look at our watch and say, "Wow, we're running out of time. It's time to go. We've got to get going. We're going to be late." But are we ready to go? Can we go? God is calling us to step out. God has a lot of moods and attitudes and excitement. I say God's go. Go has a lot of moods about it, right? A lot of attitudes. And when we hear about going, we think of things and we wonder what it's going to bring. Is it excitement? Is it fear? Go. It has possibilities, right? No matter where we're going, what we're going to do, there is a possibility. It has newness. The horizons are calling. The world is yours. Just go and see. Go and live. Go and be. Because a new chapter is about to begin. But it's also just a continuation of the story. You see, there could be a problem, though. Because if you're going to go, you have to leave. You have to take that first step. To move toward a new tomorrow means to leave your comfortable and familiar spot. That today is today, tomorrow will be yesterday. We have to embrace the call to go. Leave behind the things that we are comfortable with today and stride on into uncertain hope. Today we stand on a mountain with the disciples. And they are waiting for whatever is coming next. Something significant is going to happen. We too are in the presence and power of God. Something is going to change. The disciples' lives are going to change forever. And they had heard the word, go. We're to go and make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world. Have you ever heard that sentence before? Some of you are grinning about that because you've heard me say that a lot. My wife's probably heard me say it more than most of you. But that's what our command is. Go and make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world. And so many times we say the go part, and we don't know where to go, or we'll make disciples. We lead people to Christ. We make disciples of Jesus Christ, but then we don't really tell them that they have to transform the world, right? Each one of us has a responsibility to do what we can to transform the world that we are part of. We're moving on. We're losing grip on what we have been. We're uncertain about what is coming. What will the future hold? You see, remember that you don't hold on too tight. Because if you hold on too tight, you're going to lose what's coming. If you hold on too tight, you're going to lose of what is possible for you to become. Jesus says to go. Jesus says we're to make disciples. We're to baptize them and then teach them to obey. Matthew says when they went to the mountain, there were 11. They were broken. They were incomplete. They felt betrayed. John says, don't blame me, but fingers are being pointed. Other people are taking blame that maybe they're not supposed to be having that blame. Matthew tells us that 11 gathered on that mountain, carrying all their wounds, their failures, their disappointments, and their fears. Even when Jesus appears, yes, they worshiped, but some doubted. Some of you may have doubts as to your future. Go, he says. Go and trust. If we're going to go, we have to leave something behind. You're leaving behind who you are today. Go, he says. Go and trust. Go live with the uncertainty. Embrace the goodness of God in spite of any doubts that we may have. Trust that the new is a mountain of opportunity, of potential, and power in the presence of God. The real call here is to live in the go. Not just to jump and run to meet some deadline to get things done by a certain time so that paperwork says you can go. Jesus says to go. And it's hard to hear, and maybe it's harder to accept. And it's not impossible, but it will all fall in place. Because remember, with God, all things are possible.